Quickie, I'm going to give you another little quickie for this sort of panning shot. So you can again see how you sort of follow the character around and see what that character is noticing. Little details along the way. This is from Jodi Picoult's novel 19 Minutes, about the school shooting, which I guess is appropriate for what we've been going through these days. But you can take a look at how her character is noticing things as he's running through the school. As he raced up the steps to the school, he was vaguely aware of two other patrol officers bucking the chief's commands and joining him in the fray. Patrick directed them each down a different hallway, and then he himself pushed through the double doors past students who were shoving each other in an effort to get outside. Fire alarms blared so loudly that Patrick had to strain to hear the gunshots. He grabbed the coat of a boy streaking past him. "Who is it?" he yelled. "Who's shooting?" The kid shook his head, speechless, and wrenched away. Patrick watched him run crazily down the hallway, open the door, burst into a rectangle of sunlight. Students funneled around him as if he were a stone in a river. Smoke billowed and burned his eyes. Patrick heard another staccato of gunshots and had to restrain himself from running toward them blindly. "How many of them?" he cried as a girl ran by. I don't know." The boy beside her turned and looked at Patrick, torn between offering knowledge and getting the heck out of here. "It's a kid. He's shooting everyone." That was enough. Patrick pushed against the tide, a salmon swimming upstream. Homework papers were scattered on the floor. Shell casings rolled beneath the heels of his shoes. Ceiling tiles had been shot off, and a fine gray dust coated the broken bodies that lay twisted on the floor. Patrick ignored all of this, going against most of his training, running past doors that might hide a perp, disregarding rooms that should have been searched, instead driving forward with his weapon drawn and his heart beating through every inch of his skin. He pounded up the main stairwell, and just as he reached the top, a door cracked open. Patrick whirled, pointing his gun, as a young female teacher fell to her knees with her hands raised. Behind the white oval of her face were 12 others, featureless and frightened. So he continues to run through the school and into the gym, seeing more carnage, and then he finds the shooter, he finds the boy, and he's talking to him. So again, you see the little details as he goes by. I like the little touches of like the shell casings under his feet, and then the ceiling tiles that have fallen down. When you're doing a fast action type of scene, you don't want to spend a whole page describing all the details. You just want to throw in just a few little bits. And the best writers do this so well, where they're just kind of give you a sweeping sense of a situation, but then they'll point out like 2 or 3 little very specific details. And it's kind of like the camera is just angling on these little details that sort of give you a pause, but they also create an emotional reaction from you. I have a great excerpt from Don DeLillo's Falling Man, which is about when the trade towers fell. And there's a beautiful passage there because the guy's just sort of wandering crazed, from the incident, but then he's just noticing like a piece of paper sort of fluttering down, or a shirt, I think it was a white shirt, just sort of fluttering down from the sky. And it's like all time stops, and all he does is just sort of look at the shirt as it falls. So, and it's just a great moment. So think about how you want to, insert these visuals, these little visual moments into your scenes to have a strong effect. Don't be afraid to pause. It's really important for your character to process. So when things happen, you want your character to process, even if it's just briefly, with a little bit of noticing details. And you can slow down time a lot if you want to create that effect, that sort of cinematic effect of slowing down time, by having your character notice really tiny little things, like water, just like when it's raining, like a water drop just going down a window. When we have our characters notice small things, all of a sudden time just screeches to a stop. So that's also a really neat technique. So here's some questions that you might want to ask as you construct your scenes. I don't know if you want to jot these down, but these can be very helpful. How could I rewrite my scene, or write my scene, using camera shots to make it more intriguing and visually exciting? You want to ask what your high moment is, what moment you're trying to reach toward, because you want to build to that high moment. And I'm going to read you, let's see, I can read you one more example of how we can do that. Think about, the very different camera shots that you could use and play around with them. Like, You know, sometimes when I'm about to write a scene, I'll think about how I might shoot that, and I might think, well, I might start with this, and I'll come into a close-up here, or maybe I'll start with the close-up and then I'll pull back and show more details, or do a combination of those. You can combine all these different shots. Okay, so let me read you an example of, a couple of quick examples before we have to wrap this up. But here's just, I'm going to read the passage and I'm going to name the camera shot so you can kind of see what I'm doing here, because this is what you can do as you watch a movie or as you read through a book. If you want to try to learn how to write like somebody, right? If you have an author that you love, if you break it down to what camera shots they're using, even if they're doing it inadvertently, that will really help you a lot in learning how to put your scenes together. I'm getting ready to write a thriller series, and I have written a detective crime novel before, and I've done a number of psychological mystery novels. But I have this really cool idea for this thriller series, and it's something I haven't ever done before. So I've just ordered a whole bunch of bestsellers that are similar to mine. I'm just going to start tearing them apart and doing this and looking at exactly how they're structuring their scenes, how they're writing their sentences, you know, just all of that, so I can, you know, really master that technique. Here's an opening scene from Lisa Gardner's thriller Alone. I love her books; she's amazing. But take a look. I'm going to just name some of the technique that she's using here, some of the camera shots, and you can see what we're talking about. Okay. He put in a 15-hour shift the night the call came in. Too many impatient drivers on 93, leading to too much crash, bang, and boom. The city was like that this time of year. The trees were bare, night coming on quick, and the holidays looming. It felt raw outside. After the easy camaraderie of summer barbecues, you now walked along city streets hearing nothing but the skeletal rattle of dry leaves skittering across cold pavement. Okay, there's your establishing shot, right? Sets a good mood. Lots of cops complained about the short gray days of February, but personally, Bobby Dodge had never cared for November. Today did nothing to change his mind. His shift started with a minor fender bender, followed by 2 more rear-enders from northbound gawkers. 4 hours of paperwork later, he thought he'd gotten through the worst of it. There's your montage, right? Just a few little clips of what happened during his day to pass the time fast. Then in early afternoon, when the traffic should have been a breeze, even on the notoriously jam-packed 93, came a 5-car pileup as a speeding taxi driver tried to change 4 lanes at once, and a stressed-out ad exec in a Hummer forcefully cut him off. The Hummer took the hit like the heavyweight champ. The rusted-out cab went down for the count and took out 3 cars with it. Bobby got to call 4 wreckers and diagram the accident, then arrest the ad exec when it became clear that the man had mixed in a few martinis with his power lunch. That was a series of shots, right? Because we see the car piling up, and we see where the Hummer goes, and then he calls the wreckers, and he diagrams the accident, so we've got that whole series of shots. Okay, the man grabbed the door jamb with his right hand. He swung his lumbering body backwards, expecting to bowl over his smaller escort, and what? There's a close-up. Make a run for it through the police barracks swarming with armed troopers. Bobby ducked left, struck out his foot, and watched the overweight executive slam to the floor. That's a 2-shot or a close shot. The man landed with an impressive crash, and a few troopers paused long enough to clap their hands at the free show. There's your full shot. So you can see this, how the camera is doing, he's using all kinds of cinematic technique. He's got a montage, he's got a series of shots, he's got the establishing shot at the beginning, which is where you want it, and then he's got, he spends a little bit of time talking about that drunk ad executive and how he tricked him and how everybody clapped. You know, you can picture that nice full shot, right?